the Content Studio presents The Cutting Room, the show where we learn about the philosophy, process, and pregame from world-class content marketers who will then go through and edit an article live on stream. Before we get into it tonight, I would like to announce that we are in the final days of the registration for our Automation 101 course. If you're an in-house content marketer who finds himself spending hours each week doing the same repetitive tasks over and over again, this course is designed to teach you the fundamentals of automation so you can win back more time each week. In addition to the 5-week program, you'll also get a 60-day free trial of Airtable Pro, a 45-day trial of ClickFlow, and one-on-one consultation to build automations with me to solve your specific challenges. We've got a link in the chat if you are interested. And without any further ado, I would like to introduce my guest, Margaret Jones. Margaret Jones is the host, or the head of content over at Airtable. Before Airtable, she was at Envoy, Eventbrite, and Marketo, and is responsible for creating some enormously impactful content for people who are looking to organize their lives and information. And Margaret, I am very excited to have you on the stream.
I'm so excited to be here, and I think I could be like your co-host.
You think so? I could deal with that. Yeah, we could do that.
Going forward, I will join you as co-host. I think that's
perfect. Perfect.
Great.
Well, I'm locking you into it now. I'm probably gonna start doing these like more than once a month. So like,
Great.
It'll be fun.
Yeah. I got nothing but time. I'm here.
All right. Awesome. All right. So we're gonna just jump right into it. Margaret, I would love to learn a little bit about your philosophy for content marketing. Specifically, what is the role that it can play within an organization and the impact that it can have on an entire business?
That's a great question. It's a big question. So I'm going to try and give you like a big answer to go with it, but not a long answer. The short answer is it's kind of the heart of everything. I think about our organization at Airtable, which has grown insanely over the last year and a half. There were 5 people in marketing when I joined, which people often are surprised by, and we have 70 now. And basically every time,
Did you say 7?
70. It's wild. And like that includes people in a lot of new functions to us, but it's a big team. And basically every time we do anything, my team, the content team, gets involved. Because at least as we have content set up, we are creating work that goes in our product, webinars that we send specifically to customers, prospect pipeline driving content, awareness driving content, SEO content, YouTube, the blog, social. It's crazy. Basically, you can't do anything at Airtable in our marketing team without some kind of content, because content is usually the offer that we're sending people, right? It's the thing of value that we bring to the table. So central feels like it doesn't even describe it. It's like the air that a marketing team breathes. And I think the big challenge for content teams like mine, and for maybe folks who are on this event, is like, how do you grow as a team, right? Without adding a new content person or 7 new content people every single time you're taking on a new program as a marketing team, or you have a new goal, or you're expanding to a new audience. So the name of the game really becomes like, how do you do really good work, really, really good work? I know I have really high standards, and everyone at Airtable does. And I bet folks who are coming to a live edit also have really high standards. I don't know how. But how do you maintain those standards and also just like do more and more and more, and do so super efficiently? So I don't know. Did that answer your question, Tommy?
I think so. Oh, yes. And because we have a lot of in-house people who join this show, right? The whole idea is that we're able to look over people's shoulders, because once you get to a certain point, your accessibility for new learning kind of taps out. So
sure.
That's why we do this, right? You're part. So I was part of a huge scaling organization when I was at Shopify, right? It was massive. We saw incredible growth. I was employee 14 in the first marketing hire, and then there were 300 employees by the time I left. Like,
that's wild. Yeah.
Your function has grown significantly over the last year. I'd be curious, and you're looking at content with a capital C, right? Not just calling a blog content. It's one part of the entire
Content.
thing.
Yeah.
I'm
We can have
curious.
capitalization later, but like yes, big
I'm
content.
curious to know, like, how have you been keeping up with the growth of the entire function and integrating yourselves within the entire organization as it's been growing?
Yeah. Gosh, we have had to do so much super boring process work.
Hmm.
Like I would say, people think of like the content team or like also creative teams as doing a bunch of really cool creative work. And yes, we do that. I'm so proud of the work my team does. It is phenomenal. They all spend a lot of time on content operations. So when it comes to keeping up with an org as it's growing, um, I would point to like our input process that we do. Right now, we do them every half, but we're basically coming to all of our stakeholders and looking for key themes across the org, patterns and things that people are looking for, requests for content, discovering like what we might already have that they're looking for and we're not doing enough of a job to surface, or that we could repurpose in a different format or share on a different channel. But like it's all about pattern identification, because you can't do everything. To like your question, as an org grows, there's just going to be more programs, more needs, more asks, more requests. So it really comes to like, all right, it's our job to say, what can we do that's going to serve multiple needs? What are the common needs across the org? Sometimes we get multiple requests from one team that are super similar, and we realize like, oh, these like folks haven't had a conversation on that level. Now it's our job to come back to them and say, hey, you guys are all looking for something similar, or like you're looking for something that you already created over on this other team. So often we can like act as that connector. So like process. I happen to love content operations. That stuff is really fun for me. But like it really does, you have to care about the how, like how things actually get done, I think, to like dig in and invest there.
I totally 100% agree, and I think that process and I'm huge on automation. You know this about
Yes,
me,
yes,
but
yes.
like operations is something that is highly undervalued. I think it's almost like the thing we don't talk about because it's the thing that's on the tip of everybody's tongue,
Yeah.
but don't necessarily know how to articulate. And actually, um, so Lucas has a question here. We'll talk about that in a minute because he wants to know how we can effectively create a database of content in Airtable. I've
Yes,
got
yes,
lots of
yes,
thoughts on that. I
yes,
know
yes,
you
yes.
have lots of thoughts on that.
I do.
Um, and I'd love to dig into
Uh,
that when we start talking about
yeah,
process later. I know you've got some stuff you want to show there, so I think
for sure.
that'll
Yeah.
be that'll be good.
And you'll
Um,
like there'll be a thread throughout where I'm really excited about how to use Airtable, but I'll just like say up front, like I'm excited about using Airtable because I'm able to put into practice things that I've learned over the course of my career. And like there are ways to do them without using Airtable. It just makes things a lot easier. So like I hope people don't feel like I'm being pushy with my product. I just love it so much.
I I am
As
completely
I know
bullish on
users
Airtable.
will.
Totally bullish on Airtable.
Yeah.
Anybody like we're becoming synonymous now. I'm like
Yeah.
totally. I fanboy out over you
You're
guys.
just you're just
Um,
merging with us. It's beautiful. Yes.
yeah, exactly. Um, so here's the question, right? And this starts to go into the process side of things. You're part of this growing organization. There are a lot more inputs that start coming around. Everybody, as soon as the publication and the content starts to get a little bit more traction, everybody wants a piece.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would love to learn a little bit more about your process for handling that type of input,
Mm-hmm.
what that does with the creative development side,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll kind of transition into the pregame stuff before we get right into the live edit.
Yeah. I really want to answer your question, so tell me if I haven't answered it correctly. Um, do you want to know more about the input process itself? Is that most
Yeah,
interesting?
yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna get super nitty gritty, and folks can just like leave a little yawn emoji in the chat if it's too much. Um, so here's what I do. I create a form in Airtable. You can create a form in other places. You don't even need a form. I like a form for a reason I'll get to briefly. But I create a form in Airtable. I'm very thoughtful about the questions that I ask my input givers. You always want to ask yourself, how prescriptive should I be in my question? So I'll give you an example. If I say to all of my input, like my key stakeholders in sales, hey, what content should we create? I'm gonna get ideas across the board, and maybe that's what I want. Maybe I'm like in a zone where I just like need creativity and brainstorming and to like have lots of things flying. But maybe I kind of have a list of 10 things already, and what I really want is like a vote, or I want to be able to consolidate answers across a bunch of different teams, or even I want to kind of limit the way some of my stakeholders are thinking about what my team does, because maybe in the past they've been confused about what we actually like own and can create. So in a case like that, I'm going to create like fields within my form that are select. I'm not going to give people like as much room. I still think it's a best practice to give people a like something else fill in the blank moment. But if you're prescriptive about topics, that can be a good place to start to like identify patterns and corral your answers. So at this point, I think we have 10 different sort of teams who we go to with our form. We ask them for their key initiatives, right? Because sometimes a team will be like, well, we're really focused on this, but it has nothing to do with you. And I'm like, oh, but it does. It does have to do with me. I have to know what you're working on. So I'm like, please give me your key initiatives, right? The second piece I asked them for is like, what do you think we like need to do? Like, what are the topics? What are the themes? Like, what are the most important messages that we can get across? So again, like neither of those questions are asking people to like tell me what content to create, right? I'm like, I'm thinking about this big picture. My team wants to look at inputs across the board. So like keep me zoned out in this moment. And only then once they've asked those questions, once they've answered those questions, they say, do you have specific support you need from my team this quarter? And like please be as detailed as possible. Again, the way that's phrased is different than like, here's your opportunity to like solidify a request. This is just the moment for you to like explain what it is you need and we will come back to you, right? So I get all of those. Anyone who works in a big company, or even a small company knows there's like 100 Slacks that go into like actually getting someone to fill this out. Great time to use your automations if you have those. So I'm just like pinging people every day until they fill out the form. Annoying, yes. Effective, also yes. I get my inputs back. Now, because I have them in a form, I'm able to look at them all and then, in this case, an Airtable base. But it would work in a spreadsheet, not as cool, but you could do it that way. You just want a chance to look at patterns and see how they emerge, right? And see where things are duplicate. And then from there, I meet with my teammates and we sit down and like, this is the moment where leads on my team, and we're kind of divided into 3 different pods on the content team today. Which are like education, enterprise, and end user or like creator focused content. So those folks come in and they've looked at all the inputs and now they say, here's what I think we should do. And I ask them to like, it's not just about like, hey, what do you think you should do in your pod? It's like, you've seen the patterns here. Like, what do you think your partners should do? What do you think we should all do here? What themes are emerging? So we have a big session together where everyone is kind of proposing what they think each team should work on. And it's usually pretty clear by this point. It sort of reminds me of like when you give like a quarterly review to someone, there's usually not, or if you do it right, you should kind of already know all this stuff, right? Like you don't get like surprised in your review by some like really out from left field feedback. And in the same way, like if you're doing a good job keeping up with your partners, you've heard all of this stuff before on some level. This is just your chance to look at it all together. So we have that conversation. Again, like the patterns are usually pretty clear. Sometimes there are some things out of left field. Sometimes there's some ideas that we're like, oh, that's phenomenal. Like, you absolutely have to do that. Sometimes, to my earlier comment, there's things that we're like, oh, we already did that. Well, that's on us if they don't know that already exists, right? Like, that's not, it's not like they need to pay more attention. It's like we need to be more proactive about surfacing the content we create, or else why are we creating it? So that's like always good feedback. And then from there, we like kind of crank out our requirements. And we're basically always at some stage in that process. Like it's ongoing. The content my team works on has anything from like a day lead time to like a 3-month lead time. So we've got lots of different kinds of workflows and work back schedules. And because of that, we need to be like really on top of it, get ahead of things as far as possible. We've got creative partners we have to work with, web dev partners we have to work with, campaign partners we have to work with. And I really, the most important part of our job, on the operations end is creating predictability in what we deliver, right? So being super clear with our stakeholders about what we are producing, when it's coming, here's the date, here's where you can check it on in the calendar, and like you will know the status at every single moment. So like that's like, you know, so much of our job is around that, like planning and then communicating our plans. We're actually like in the phase right now where we're like on a road show with the company. Here's what we're planning for each one.
I love that. I love that. And there's something that you said kind of early on about not being prescriptive. And this is something I made a mistake with early on in my career, where I'm like, what blog post do you want?
Right.
And
we're like,
nine times out of 10, because these people aren't in content, they don't know what blog post they want.
Yeah. Right.
And
that's a good point. Like it gives you the opportunity to show that you are thinking about this stuff on a strategic level, which anyone who works in content is like, oh my God, people think I just like fulfill orders, they just make a blog post, but like everyone's really thoughtful about what they're producing. And to your point, like being prescriptive allows you to like get some of that perspective in front of people first.
My like little, if I were to put things into a tweetable, right, something like little catchy and pithy, it's I'm a chef, not a short order cook. And
totally.
You know, but the idea is like as an in-house person, and you're working with multiple folks, you're also, it's kind of on you to make sure that you're getting in front of people and to claim that ownership. And one of the things I like that you said, like what you're talking about here, is you're creating a regular feedback cycle. Now, from an operations perspective, something that I used to do was actually, and you guys can do this in platform, which is great. I used to use Zapier to do this, but schedule a recurring message that would go up in, say, Slack, where once a month it would go to our specific teams and say, hey, here's our intake form. Let us know some of the things that you're doing, or some of the things that you'd like, so we can get on the same page early on.
Yeah, we do a weekly digest of upcoming content. So we use, that's like an automation that's just triggered off of our content calendar. So it rolls up all of the content we published the week before, and then it gives you a preview of the week coming, and we send that to mostly marketing leadership, but like other interested parties. We do have one content shipping meeting every week where we sort of like meet with folks who are more in the tactical shipping moment with us. And then we every month do a performance stack to share like results and like all of the deliverables from the previous month. So we're just kind of like constantly beating this drum.
It's so wonderful. I love it. I love the operations side of things so much, because you get those inputs from other people, but then you also have that level of distribution that everybody can see. And it's like, if you're running content, you're the most frequently published voice of the company. So it's really important that you're getting those inputs and giving that visibility to the rest of the team. It's a push and pull.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I would love to, Lucas has asked, how can he effectively create a database of content in Airtable? And please only push Airtable. He says, I'm here to learn Airtable and not Google Sheets. Lucas, if you want to jump into some more, if you want to jump into more detail on that, that's great. Margaret, I know that you have some process stuff that you want to show with Airtable, so I would love to dig into that process.
I have a problem. I am going to share my screen. Lucas, I think like creating a content calendar in Airtable is such a great topic. I've made a lot of content calendars in my life, and I will be the first to say, the first time I made a content calendar in Airtable, I got so frustrated and was like, this is not working. This is not doing what I want it to do. And part of that was like, I came from a super like spreadsheet based way of thinking. And then when I got into Airtable, I was like, looks like a spreadsheet, but not operating exactly like a spreadsheet. Now it is my favorite thing in the world. I'm going to share my screen here and talk to you about a couple of different things. I'm gonna like show off a couple of things in Airtable that I love. One is okay, you guys can see my screen.
Not quite yet. Hold on, I'll get you. There we go.
I see it coming.
We're good. You're full screen.
Okay, boom. So I love forms in Airtable. I love them because they populate databases. So I have like a special base, and you can see from this lightning bolt that it's syncing to another table. This is syncing to like a team base that everyone uses, but like I like to just have my own little world. That's how I roll. This is also just like a safe place for me to get weird in Airtable. Anyhow, so anything that happens in this form populates my daily to-dos, which most people on my team have access to. So I'll start by saying like, this is my number one pain point as a like editor and reviewer, is like getting the information that I need up front before I review something. People are gonna laugh at this, but we use Google Docs at Airtable. I love Google Docs. Access to them is like the biggest nightmare in my life. So if somebody puts a link in here to a Google Doc, so if they're like something, 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 that's that Google, it automatically is like, did you share the file to Margaret? Because I get so annoyed when things are not shared with me. So annoying for them too. Anyway, so I have people fill out their email address. That works back to an automation, which we'll get into. The name of their project, obviously when they need something reviewed by, that they share their Google Doc, or if they have an attachment. And then like, this is really key for me, finding out what kind of review people want. I find this to be especially useful when I'm working with people who are not like in and out of content every day. Oh, this is kind of small. So like somebody who's sort of new to the content or the review process might just be like, I don't know, I need you to edit it, or I need you to review it. I don't really know what that means. Like, just look at my piece. So this is my chance to say like, hey, like, do you need a developmental edit? Like, do you want feedback on like structure or like overall quality, or whether this is getting the job done? Or are you just looking for a copy edit? You know, you're just like, tell me grammar, tell me spelling. Do you need a proofread? Or do you just want no comments? You just want me to approve this, right? Like, tell me what you're after before I dive in. And then I also give people the opportunity to like indicate what stage the project is in, which is another way of asking a similar question. But like, sometimes people are like, I think this needs a lot of work. And I'm like, okay, great. Like, I know that I'm gonna like go hard on this edit, or I'm gonna tell them they're wrong, that it doesn't need a lot of work. And sometimes people are like, I think this is almost done. And so now when I'm going into it, if I read it and I think this is not almost done, I know how to approach that conversation. Like, hey, I know you've done a lot of work on this. I can see why you would feel like it's almost done. I think we just need to like pivot on a few moments in here. So like, this kind of sets us up for like an empathetic editing job. And again, all of this is populated directly into my to-do list. I'm like really scared to show it because I'll be honest, there's a lot of things that aren't done in here. These are my daily to-dos, so those are coming straight out of this review form that everyone on my team has. I will also show you, this is what a content calendar looks like in Airtable for my team. There's so many ways to make like amazing content calendars. This one is very specific to my team and what we do. You can see we have so many different views. So like, one of the pods uses it for like their individual assignments. I usually look at this full content calendar base. Sometimes, like, this is our content shipping. I mentioned that we do like a week backward and a week forward at all of our check-ins, but this is all the same data. We're just rearranging it in lots of different ways. And as you can see, this base is absolutely bonkers. Shout out to Hallie on my team who built this incredible base. But we use this for everything from our OKRs, so we're actually tracking all of our results in here, to our like the key objectives those link to. We've got the PR calendar synced in here, so we can make sure that we're like in lockstep with them. It's kind of, and we also do our meeting agendas in here. It's kind of a bonkers space. But the point being, like, this here, like, this is kind of the gold, is having a calendar like this. Because every single one of these things, I can click right into it and get all of this information, see any changes, see any comments, get like the full, anyone who works in content, you're like, there's so much metadata, there's so many things to like link and keep in mind. So I can have all that here, but I can also just like, okay, let's take a breath and just like see where this is. And as with most calendars today, like obviously you can move things around, so wonderful. These colors are actually showing us production status. So I want things to be green or blue. That means done or published in our world. You can kind of see how this like appeal. Any operations dorks out there, like, this is so delicious. I love it so much.
I am in awe of this right now and want to ask if you have like a templated view only version of this base.
I am.
Um,
We do have a content calendar because this base is like, and again, I will shout
it's
out to
totally
Helen again. I can
customized.
take no credit for this amazing base other than the fact that I use it. But like, there's so many things in here that are specific to our team, which I think anyone who like loves Airtable has found that like once you get building, like I'll just show you guys. Look at all these automations we have. We automate so many things all the time. So much work that we do is automated. Um, you'll just find that like you have so many things you want to do, so many
I
ideas you
love
want
it.
to put forth.
Okay, so we're going to get into the pregame in just a moment here because we have about 5 minutes before we get into the live edit. But we do have a question from Adam. Curious to hear how you
Ooh, yeah.
decide how to prioritize the requests
Okay.
sent in. I love
Yes,
that.
I love this. Okay, so like one way we do this is we, as I said before, we kind of limit how many requests we're going to get. So I've worked on content teams where like you're basically, and again, like no offense to short order cooks for, like if you're like, we make some like eggs and bacon for people. It's totally fine.
You need it.
I don't mind doing it. But it's not like it's not the bulk of the work my team is doing. We're just like operating in like a slightly more holistic way. And again, because we tend to have these longer lead times, it's not really possible for us to like react super fast to requests. With that being said, like we try to kind of get most of the requests, like the like, I need this, like, okay, I'm a product marketer, I'm a campaign manager, I need this piece of content in order to get my job done. We try and like shift that conversation to, I need to accomplish XYZ things. I have this problem I need to solve. Content team, what's the best way to solve this problem?
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that like our product marketing team, like we love that relationship with them because they really get it. But like they'll come to us and they'll say, hey, we've noticed that like there's like a gap in our customers learning that we want to
Mm-hmm.
fix. And like we think that maybe we should approach it through like one of our guides, or maybe we should do a webinar, but like we're coming to you and we're saying like, help us solve this problem about this gap in our customers' knowledge. And then we consider it our job to say like, yep, we see it. I get you. I don't think the webinar is the right thing. And my team really owns content performance. So we really have a leg to stand on when we say like, hey, for that audience, like, I don't think you're going to get the attendance you're looking for. Or I don't think you're going to get the engagement you're looking for. It's our job to like surface those kinds of metrics, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that can just like, I would start by just like kind of asking how you can do a little bit of change management away from request and into like group consultation, which is harder, but I think like worth it in the long run. With
Well,
that being
and
said,
you had mentioned
okay,
too, like just a moment ago, that your team was doing a road show across
yes,
the organization, and I think that is absolutely brilliant because I know a lot of content teams will live in isolation and can actually have like sometimes an adversarial relationship with product marketing teams because there isn't that level of visibility or that sort of consultative relationship that you've built there.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I think that's important is when you start to build those relationships, that prioritization works out a little bit more
yeah.
too.
Yeah. And so much of what we're road showing is less like, here are the 25 pieces of content each person is creating. So
Hmm.
much of what we're road showing is like, these are our priorities, right? And we got these from you. Like you filled out the input form, you told us where you were going to focus. We saw this pattern. Here's how we're going to prioritize our work. So, like to Adam's great question, that's how you prioritize requests, right? Is like you get buy-in on your prioritization system. You say, this is the number one thing, this is the number two thing, this is the number three thing. Anything else outside of those three things is going to be a maybe, right? It's going to really depend on our capacity. We're committed to these three in this order. So then when you get a request, you still have wiggle room. Like sometimes someone comes in with a random request and you're like, that is so good. Why didn't we do that? Like, thank you so much. You always want to like keep the door open in that way. But again, you want to reframe it as like, send us your ideas, right? Like we're always open to your ideas. but let's get aligned on what's most important for our team, most important for our organization, so we're all on the same page when you're asking why did this get done and this didn't get done.
I love it. I love it. That's like
Yeah.
the most thoughtful answer I've ever heard to something like that. I know once upon a time I had said like, I've got 4 slots every month for a product marketing piece. That's how my calendar's structured, and you guys are gonna have to Game of Thrones it out. Like,
there's always some of that, right? Like you can't
terrible approach though.
that's always part of what you're up to. But I think like you'll get more out of your content team or your content team of one yourself, if you approach it in this like align on priorities first oriented way.
Yeah, and laddered up to the company priorities.
Yeah, exactly.
Always, even as they're shifting, especially if you're doing it on a quarterly basis.
Totally.
All right, so we've learned a lot about philosophy, and we've learned a lot about process, and there's actually a lot of pregame that's gone into that too.
Yeah.
I would love to jump straight into the piece, and we'll start talking about that.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you focus on the screen.
Okay.
If you can share your screen.
I love it. I think I understand how to do it. Here it comes. You can see my calendar again. Okay, let's look at this piece together. And I will close this little message.
There we go.
Now I can see everything perfectly. This is gonna be like a real. I like skim this piece, but like we're getting my like real first time reaction. So I will start by saying this is a little bit on the pregame side. I think this piece needs a little bit of developmental editing. Like that's what I'm anticipating I'm going to do here. And I'm going to do that first before we go into line editing. And I'm hearing you type like super loud, Tommy. I love it. It's like ASMR for me, but like whatever. And I do want to say like, all of you editors out there know this already, but like there's a big difference between those types of editing. And I always am like, first developmental editing, then line editing. Do not line edit something that has like major structural issues or that doesn't get the point across, or that's intended for the wrong audience, right? Like that's going to get you nowhere. That's a waste of your time. So we start with developmental.
Can you blow your screen up just a little bit here too?
Of course. Actually,
and just so everybody knows, I've also put a link to the doc inside the chat here. So if you want to follow along inside the document, we can do that as well.
Is that better? Looks better on my screen.
Much better. There we go.
Okay. I also, let's get nerdy for a second. Anytime I'm looking at a piece, I like to, in order to like give really good feedback, because one of my priorities as an editor is not just to make the piece awesome, but it's also to make the writer feel like more empowered next time that they're writing a piece, right? Like we're all teaching each other. We all have tons to learn. I had a couple of like really embarrassing editing moments when I first started editing, where I like went way over the top with an edit and just like was so excited to be really right about everything and gave that writer a terrible experience. So I will say like it is important to give writers a like positive experience of you as an editor and of their piece being edited. I mean this if this person is on your team, if they're a freelancer, whatever, like it's your job to grow them as a writer, and it's your job to like make like reward the work. Writing is hard. Writing is really, really hard. So let's start with that as like where we like get into a piece, right? And with that in mind, like I try to give people really detailed feedback whenever I can. Sometimes time is of the essence, you can't, but and the way that we do that on my team is we actually have these different like categories of writing quality that we can like score and use to give feedback on a piece. So like for an example, this is actually just a template, but you can see how each of these pieces is scored on like different categories, and it's rolling up to a total score. And that's helping me give like really constructive feedback. Like maybe I'm saying like, oh, on this average example piece, it looks like we had like our structure was really poor, right? So like, let's talk about like how we can improve structure going forward. And you can actually graph this out and see how someone's structure might improve over time with multiple pieces, because it's all connected back to the same reviewer and the same writer. So I'll start with like, I can get super processy and dorky, but let's just roll in here and have fun. Okay, so This piece
But
is
hold up, I'm in awe of that
you
right
want me
now.
to tell more? Okay.
I'm blown away by that. Yeah. Anyways, that's
Yeah.
incredible, and I think that having that rubric, right, the rubric idea is like amazing because you can see that development over time. And something that I try to tell junior editors that I've met is that um, this is a very intimate relationship that you develop with your writer, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're the first reader, and you're judging whether or not their interpretation of a subject was right. Um, and telling them
Um,
if their writing is good or not. So
yeah,
like
it can be
this is
so rude. Has anyone ever just been
brilliant.
edited by someone and you come away from it like, do you hate me? Like, why are you doing this to me? And that's not what we're trying to get across, right? And that doesn't make the piece better. It just makes your writer feel bad.
Right.
So like, yes. Most of us editors are writers and understand. I will absolutely share this with anyone who wants it. I see some folks in the chat. Tell me, maybe you can hook me up with people's emails, or we can figure out a way to send this around. Because I
Yeah,
love it.
I'll
And
be sending a follow up afterwards. So
you could
we'll have a
really
follow up
easily
email go out
customize
tomorrow.
this would be like soups easy for you to change to reflect whatever you feel like your company wants to lean into, and then you can just use it. Shout out to Kat Du, former Airtable, who built this beautiful base that uses formulas that like I myself don't know how to do. So she's amazing, and like yes, we can share this around. Okay, now let's dive
I'm
in. Right?
stoked.
It's so cool. She's so great. Okay. So, this piece is a case study. And like, we don't have a ton of information about this piece. So like, normally I would ask the writer a lot of questions. I'd want to see like, what other pieces are like this that they're like aiming to replicate. I might like ask them questions about this, um, about specific customers. And I guess this is about Epic base, but it's not about how a specific customer uses it. It's just like about how you can use it for your, what I learned is called a bomb. So this is like the back of the house, your bill of materials for like different recipes. So just to set everyone up, I guess that's what Epic Base makes. That's one of their products. And I'm guessing, so it seems like the purpose of this piece is to explain to someone who is already like in that consideration stage. Like they're like, I am a restaurant operator. I need to create accurate bill of materials. I'd like to do so with the push of a button, perhaps. Like who can help me do this? And so this is like persuasive writing about Epic Base. I spend the most time editing anything on this, like exactly what's showing on the screen here. Title and introduction, because this is where you lose people, or this is where you set people up to like fully understand what they're getting into, get excited about this product or this story, and like I don't know. Sorry, we're gonna do like a tiny bit of line editing. But mostly we're gonna focus on the content itself. So like anybody who I edit knows, like I will often leave like 3 comments on like these first 2 paragraphs, and then I'm like the rest of it's great. So let's look at the first paragraph together and let's read it. Okay, love them or hate them, and you have to read everything out loud. Love them or hate them, accurate restaurant bill of materials, bomb, are the backbone of every large and profitable F&B business. If you're involved in restaurant back of house in any capacity, you constantly use bombs for everything from ensuring production and pricing accuracy to informing decisions around inventory and procurement. So like first impressions, this is a super tight first paragraph. I think they're hitting on all of their keywords. This world is 100% foreign to me, but I understand the basics of what they're trying to get across. I'd say they've got some like nice sentence variety. This one is a little bit long to me. I think especially for a blog and how much people are reading on mobile today, a sentence like this can like lose someone while they're like waiting in line for whatever. So like I tend towards like shorter sentences for blog content, which I assume that this is. But I think that this is like a very nice use of em dash. I'm an em dash queen, and I like that we're spacing between our em dashes. So like in general, I think this is a good first paragraph that's setting us up to like understand the rest of the story. So like A plus, amazing job. And if I were editing this, I might make a comment as such. Really lovely job setting up the reader to self-identify. That's something I love. Do you know who this is for? Yes, this is for restaurant operators. This is for people involved in back of house. Got it. Self-identify, know what to expect from the piece. Nice sentence variety. Lots of terms to incorporate. Okay, and like anytime you're editing and you see something good, you should tell people. If there's anyone on my team here, they're like, Margaret, you do not do that. I would if I had more. You're all amazing writers. You're all so talented. You know I love it. I'm gonna look at this first sentence a little bit though. Tommy, would you mind reading this first sentence aloud?
Sure. Love 'em or hate 'em, accurate restaurant bills of materials, BOM, are the backbone of every large and profitable F&B business.
Okay.
If you're involved...
Keep going. Yeah, great. I love it.
No. If you're involved in restaurant back of house in any capacity, you constantly use BOMs for everything from ensuring production and pricing accuracy to informing decisions around inventory and procurement.
I'm having a reaction to love 'em or hate 'em. And I don't have the brand guidelines for this company, right? And I like haven't had tons of time to like dig into their other materials. But love 'em or hate 'em is it's a very like frequently used phrase, right? Like it's not going to give us like a ton of intrigue. And it's like a little bit provocative, like, oh, do I love them or do I hate them? And it also, I love the empathy with this like restaurant operator who's like so in the weeds that they're like, I have very strong opinions about these bombs. You know, like some of them I love, some of them I hate. I just am kind of like, who would actually hate the accurate restaurant bill? Do you think they all would like to have an accurate restaurant bill? So I'm gonna just make a comment here. And if I was editing this, I would probably rewrite, and we can experiment with how I might rewrite. But I would say like, is there a slightly more provocative or original way we could pose this statement? That would be my annoying question that would leave my writer going, okay, Margaret, just do it yourself if you're so sure there's a more original and provocative way. But my tendency, so now we're just going to go ahead and edit it. We're going to pretend that I'm not going to have another round with this person. I just have to do it myself. I might just go ahead and take that out. Accurate restaurant bills. Now it's kind of boring, right? They're the backbone of every large and profitable F&B business. What do you think is most important? That the restaurant bills are accurate, that's the backbone, or is it the bill of materials itself that's the backbone?
That's something that I have a hard time sort of distinguishing here. And I mean, I am not familiar with, bill of materials I mean, I know bill of materials in general, but are the backbone of every large and profitable? Right.
Here's what I kind of want. I kind of want like a question or like a slightly more conversational like statement here. Like like I want to like dig into the problem, right? Like I mean this is just like okay, let's say
I might even cut that entire first line.
Just get rid of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not against that either. Let's see how that looks. You just start, if you're involved in restaurant back of house in any capacity, you constantly use bombs. And then I want to be like, and then we could use our backbone. You're the backbone of everything from ensuring production and pricing accuracy to informing decisions around inventory and procurement. I like that. I think that's really nice. if I was going to continue with this line of thinking, I might say like something like, if your BO and materials aren't accurate, your days are numbered, you know, like your days as a successful restaurant owner are numbered. That's very dramatic, but like maybe we just want something that's going to make people like really stop in their tracks and think about these restaurant bonds. I don't know. And maybe this isn't true, but maybe it is. But I like either of these versions. I like starting here, and I like maybe throwing out here. So here's where I'd probably say to my writer, this is probably a bad example, but maybe you can help with it. Because
there's a level of dun dun dun.
Yeah. Is it even true? Okay to admit you don't know. But so now I've at least given them something to work with instead of just saying like, can you make your first sentence better? And like, look, I tried. So maybe now you can actually make it better. Okay, and I feel like I really understand this concept. Let's keep moving. F&B bonds are an essential tool that lets you make business decisions without guesstimating things like workload, production planning, or ingredient ordering. Okay, so now I know. Do we know what F&B is?
I don't.
Let's call that out. I'm sure it comes in later. And maybe my writer will say we do not need to define this. All of our readers. Oh, somebody in the chat said food and beverage.
Oh, food and beverage. Thank you, Patrick.
Okay, I love this. Thank you, Patrick. Should define. Okay. And let's just go ahead and do that here then. Food and beverage. Yes, Patrick. Bills of materials are great. Okay, are an essential tool. Great. So now let's zoom out and look at the whole piece. So this feels like we're trying to get some SERP ranking with this piece. It's very like definitional. What is a restaurant bill of materials? What are like the things, the kinds of bills of materials, recipe, menu, production plan. And then here's what we do as a company. We make them appear out of thin air. Here's some great examples. I'm not sure what's going on with this call out. Oh, I see. This is telling me about a special feature of my product. Okay, and then we're diving in. So I like this because we set up that our 3 different types are recipe, menu, and production plan. And then I can see, I hope I'm not making you look dizzy, that we've got recipe, menu, and production plan. Yes. Okay, this is great. I love this. I love the structure of this piece. It's just like simple, obvious. We laid out the 3 things, and now we're going to expand on the 3 things. I think this is really smart. I'm going to do something really fast, though. I'm going to look at word count. Okay, this piece is super long.
Question for the audience, just in particular. There seems to be some of our audience members are having trouble with the stream cutting in and out. Is that just Patrick, or are other audience members having the similar issue? Okay, okay, thank you, Leah.
Okay, great.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Just you, Patrick. Sorry.
Patrick, we will come to your house and redo this whole thing.
There we go. Perfect.
That's the guarantee, right? If the video yep, that's the guarantee. Okay. Okay, so I'm just looking at word count here. I'm noticing this is about 1,600 words long. And like I probably should have started by looking at that word count.
I don't expect we'll get through the whole thing.
We're not going to get through the whole thing. There's no way. But we can get through. How much time do we have? We have 11 more minutes. I just don't see it. And I think that is like a good first step as an editor, is to just like scope how long and make themselves a little bit of a time estimate. I would say for myself, I would budget an hour at minimum to edit this piece well. It's pretty dense. It's got a lot of information. It's got these like sub bullets and sections and call outs. It's a topic I'm not super familiar with, so I'm probably gonna have to look stuff up to like do a good editing job. It might even take me an hour and a half or 2 hours to go through. So like, and I do think an important part of editing is like giving yourself enough time to edit it well. So I should say that. I don't think this is too long given what all it's covering. And I'm just kind of eyeballing. I'm looking at the lengths of the paragraphs. None of them are longer than 3 or 4 lines each. I'm looking at the lengths of the sections. They look to be all like a half a page long. So like if I'm trying to decide, oh, does this have a lot of fat that needs to be trimmed? My guess is no, it doesn't have a lot of fat that needs to be trimmed. If this is within our word count limit, like we're like, yep, that's about this. Like we know that these longer pieces are going to perform better in SERP. We have like the, this is still going to look nice in our blog format or wherever this is publishing. Great. If we did need to shorten it, I'd probably say like, in that case, let's like break these sections out into their own individual pieces and see if we can expand on them a little bit or like add. I saw that the author had a few notes for like places graphics could go or like places that animations could go. So like, again, kind of on the developmental structure end, I think this is well structured. And as long as we're like tolerant of this length, I think the length is good, which is great. Sometimes you open up a piece and you're like, oh man, I need to cut this in half. And that can be really challenging. Okay, let's then look at, let's get down into this piece where we start talking about ourselves. So like, and I guess my assumption is that I work at AppicBase in this world, and this is going on like an owned channel for AppicBase. Let's look at how we talk about our product. Okay, AppicBase almost makes bombs appear out of thin air. AppicBase bomb feature is as close to set it and forget it as we could get it. Oh my gosh. Wait, Tom, will you read that first line? But with some pathetic.
AppicBase bomb feature is as close to set it and forget it as we could get it. I love it.
Okay. I'm not sure I love it.
Okay.
Here's my thinking. It's really cute. And like, I think that it like gives me a little chuckle, which I like about it. I'm not familiar enough with AppicBase's brand to say whether they want to be cute or not. If they're like, yep, we're a cute product, we're trying to give people that chuckle. We love to rhyme, we love alliteration, we like things to feel like snappy and like a little bit infomercially, then I'd say like go for it. This is like fitting the brief perfectly. I will say in general, when something feels like it could be in an infomercial, I tend to like linger there and wonder if maybe there's something we should change. So like, I'm not going to bring my strong perspective into this piece, but I would say like, I would ask the writer, like, does this fit our brand voice? And let's just do that. And we'll give them a little. And I will tell them I like it. I will say, this gave me a lull, as the kids say. But is it in line with our brand voice? Too cute? And just give them the opportunity to make that decision, right? Okay, I mean, it rhymes, it's cute. All that your kitchen teams need to do is set up the recipes and enter ingredient and vendor data, and the platform does the rest. You only need to do this once. After that, you just have to keep everything up to date. For example, adding new recipes or tweaking packaging data. I think this is super clear. I think this M dash is on point. I'm confused about why we're using brackets. I think these are just parentheticals. I'm just gonna make a teensy little tweak, and maybe there's some style guide that they use brackets instead of parentheses, but I don't think so. But this all makes good sense to me. After you load the platform with your data, everyone with proper credentials can use it to create an accurate FMU of materials quickly. Here's what I like about this. You, everyone, your kitchen teams, like it is so easy to talk about a product with like, AppicBase is incredible for doing all of these things. AppicBase will take care of everything. And I love that we've really kept our reader as like the hero of these paragraphs. And that we like, keep like focusing on them. And I'm even gonna like, make a little note to my writer. Nice job. Keeping that focus on our reader. So many. I feel like I can't use my usual bad grammar. This should be a semicolon. So many use statements. Okay, love it. I feel pretty good about this list here. We've got a graphic. I think it's nice to give our designers a little bit more. How much time do we have? Let's look at our final paragraph. That's another important piece. Okay, so we've talked about all these things the bomb's going to do. Get your teams to work on answering these profit-boosting questions by handing over bomb creation to AppleBase. You've seen the features in action. If you want to know how it can help your F&B operation reach new heights, schedule a call with their team with this button. Okay, super clear. One thing, I wondered if AppleBase is based in the UK because they say maths instead of math. So I was like, should I delete this? I'm going to query my writer. UK English? Maths, not math. That's my only comment. Great CTA, super clear what you're supposed to do. My overall feedback on this piece is I find this topic super dry. So like for how long it is, if we believe that our audience is super invested in this topic and they're just going to be like hanging on every word because this problem is so front and center for them, I think we're in great shape here. If we have any worry that maybe they're less invested, I would probably say, let's up the drama a little. What else can you put in here? Let's make sure that these like suggestions for graphics are like coming to life. So I think we're going to need some like visual to like break up all of this text. And like broadly, I would probably I think I would give people some like bookmarks within so that they could like link to different sections and like navigate through the pieces they needed to.
I love that. Now we've got like 3 minutes left here, Margaret. Yeah. I would love to learn. My piece is really big, which it's fine, but just here, I'll join you.
Thank you.
Nope. There we go. Cool. So yeah, we've got a couple minutes left here. I'd love to kind of just get a general wrap up of your ideas and yeah, sum it up. Tell me everything that you feel about content marketing in the next 3 minutes. 2 minutes.
Oh my gosh, I love this question. Everything I feel about content marketing. Well, when I started doing content marketing, I didn't know what content was or marketing, which just speaks to like how fast things change. I think we've really entered an era in which, and this is something I love about my CMO at Airtable. She is like the most passionate advocate of quality of any leader I've ever worked for. And like that's like no shade on the great leaders I've worked for, but like Archana, our CMO, really cares about this stuff. And she's very, as we all are as a team, she's very passionate about us feeling like all of the work we put out we're like really proud of. And I do think like this is like a balm to my like writer soul. But I do think like anyone who's working in content right now can like bolster themselves and like retreat to this like fundamental truth, which is like good work really stands out even today. Like if you like believe that your writing is good, if you believe that your creative is good, if you yourself want to read it, like that's why I kind of like, even with this piece we looked at where I'm like, I'm not the person for this, right? But like I think I could get really interested in restaurant bombs. Like I've been to a restaurant, I've worked in a restaurant, like there's got to be a spark even for me. And I would just like, I really hold my team to that standard that they think the work they're working on is interesting and they feel like passionate about it and like engaged in it. Not because your job is the most important thing. It's definitely not, but like you just shouldn't spend all your time doing something that bores you. And I think that like that is increasingly coming across in how content performs and how it's regarded. Like we're kind of reaching the same place that like creative was, 20, even 30 years ago. We've known that Super Bowl commercials are good for a long time. I think we're now coming to like, but yeah, like blog posts should be good too. All of these different like YouTube videos should be really, really good. That doesn't mean expensive, it just means good. So I think it's like, I think we're in like a potential like golden age of content where we're no longer just like playing this volume game, but like again, feeling super proud of the work we put out.
I'm going to have you follow up over email because there's so many other things we could talk about here, especially being on the production hamster wheel of that and getting into the same patterns and pattern breaking. And there's so many other things that we could talk about. I would love if in the follow up you could give me some ideas on breaking those patterns and kind of keeping things fresh for yourself. How do you keep your energy up? But for right now, I have to say thank you so much, everybody. We are at time. Thank you so much, Margaret, for coming on. Thank you so much, everybody, for attending live. This was fun. I loved it. Next week, we have Shayla Price coming on. She is the founder of Primo Stats and is an amazing content marketer. I've worked with her for many years now. Looking forward to that. And then the week after that, we have the one and only Wizard of Moz, Rand Fishkin, coming on for an edit. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great rest of the week.
Thank you so much, Tommy. Thanks, everyone, for the chat and the questions, and we'll have some follow-ups.